Good evening and welcome to episode 1 of MesmePolitics. My name is Toby Lepati Mesme and it is Wednesday night, just gone 10 o'clock, on the 5th of May 2021. We're going to be doing this every day at 10 o'clock, giving you an alternative to the typical 10 o'clock news shows. It is independent. This is an independent, left-wing radio show where we take you through the biggest stories in politics in the UK, the US, Europe, around the world, the global south, China, India, basically all the biggest stories with a particular focus on the UK and the US, because that's obviously where I'm most familiar with the political sphere, but all the stories from around the world and in an informative but left-wing perspective. That's what we're going to try to do. So as I say, I'm Toby Lepati Mesme. Welcome along and thank you for joining us. We have got a lot to get through today. We've obviously got election 2021, vote 2021 in Britain happening tomorrow. We have got the prospects of a Cold War with China and Antony Blinken's comments regarding that. And we have got the US shock news tonight on the question of a waiver for COVID vaccine patents, which would be a game changer, particularly for poorer countries, countries outside the West, and countries in the global South. So, vote 2021. Tomorrow, people cast their votes. Friday morning, we get the results. And people will be casting their votes right up and down the country, in England, Scotland, Wales, in a set of elections that are the biggest local elections plausible, and the biggest set of elections outside a general election. This is obviously because last year's were postponed. It's all built up. We have got so much. We've got councillors. We've got police and crime commissioners. We've got metro mayors. We've got the parliaments in Wales and Scotland. So let's pick this apart one by one. First of all, the by-election. Yeah, we've got a by-election, and it's not just an ordinary by-election, it's in the Red Wall, okay? It's symbolic of everything Keir Starmer should be striving to win. So the by-election in Hartlepool, this is a seat that was held by Jeremy Corbyn in 2019, with 38% of the vote, and the right-wing vote splitting between the Brexit Party and the Tories. Now, if we look back at the history of this seat, in 1997, 61% for Labour. 2001, 59% for Labour. 2004, 41% for Labour. And 52% for Labour in 2005. So 2005 is the last time that vote was achieved. You go down, 2010, 43% for Labour. In 2015, the vote splits between UKIP and the Tories on the right, and Ed Miliband squeaks down through the middle on 36%. What happens in 2017? Well, this is a heavily Leave voting seat, and under Jeremy Corbyn, there was a massive 16% increase in Labour's vote share, taking it to 53%, with Labour taking a big bulk of that UKIP vote. The Tories going up as well, but the majority increasing, proving Labour, under a left-wing leader, can win Leave voters in that constituency. In 2019, obviously because of Brexit, that all goes down. But going off that 2017 logic, the idea for Starmer should be to take those Brexit Party voters back into the fold, particularly now Brexit is done. He should be able to bring them back into the fold, and he should be able to replicate what happened in 2017 with Jeremy. That's not happened. Anyone blaming Jeremy Corbyn for this result is politically illiterate. The latest poll has Labour on 33% in this seat. And as we know, going off precedent, going off that result I've shown you from 2017, the idea should be wholly plausible, the decline isn't inevitable, the Leave vote from the Brexit Party can go back to Labour. Actually, compared to 2019, the Tories are up 21 points on 50%, Labour down 5 on 33%, Northern Independence Party, Socialist Alternative Party, is on 6%, Independent on 6, Green Party on 3, Lib Dems on 1, and the Reform UK is down 25 on 1%. So basically all, save about 4% of that vote, has gone to the Tories. It didn't have to be this way. If this is replicated and the Tories get 50%, 50% in this constituency and take it off Labour, that is catastrophic. Symbolically and practically, that is a dire blow for Keir Starmer. And I think it feeds into a general pattern of people in the north just not liking the guy. And I want to take you through some more data on this. Tees Valley mayoral election, 2017, when Labour nationally wasn't doing too well. It was before the boost. You had 51% for the Tory candidate, 49% for the Labour candidate. That is a 2-point difference. So you'd assume now at least be similar. Well, latest poll, 63% for the Tory mayor and 37% for the Labour candidate. This is Tees Valley, this is Brexit, this is Leave voting, it's the North. It's the sort of place Keir Starmer has measured his entire leadership on performing sort of well in. Bear with me 1 second, that's just the cat there. Hang on, I'll just let the cat out. The cat's making a lot of noise. Bit Owen Jones of me, right? The cat's interrupting me during during a broadcast. But as I was saying, so that's dire, right? That's a double-digit deficit, almost. Well, it is a double-digit deficit for Labour. West Midlands mayoral election. The polling for a second round. This is somewhere that is basically a swing state. It's the equivalent of a swing state. 59% Tory, 41% Labour. Dire. Where's the good news for Labour? Manchester, doing well. Bristol, going to do well. Labour, London, going to do well. You might as well call it Labour. It's a red city now. West Yorkshire, it looks like they're going to take that new mayoralty. That's good for them. They're piling on votes in the cities, but they are not doing well in all these areas. You know, they should be doing well. They should be taking the West Midlands. They should be competitive. Tees Valley. Neither of these things are the case. And they should be holding comfortably, much like in 2017, particularly now the Brexit thing has been neutralised, they should be holding comfortably the Hartlepool seat. They're not. I think this feeds into a general pattern of people not liking the guy in the north. Keir Starmer is bombing in the north. There are a number of factors at play here. Why do I think he's bombing in the north? I think he's bombing in the north, and I've said this all along. He is the architect of the most disastrous Labour policy since the Iraq War, right? The second referendum. It was a middle finger to these areas and these communities. Alongside that, no policy, no direction. I think Rebecca Long-Bailey would not be tanking to this extent, nor would Lisa Nandy. I think Long-Bailey would actually have the best chance longer term. But just about anyone, Andy Burnham, anyone more Sadiq Khan, anyone with a bit more authenticity, particularly someone from the north, would be doing better here. This guy is completely out of touch. He is pitching himself as a political actor to basically appeal to the 12% that voted Lib Dem in 2019. Those are the only people that like the guy. Progressives and the young don't like him. Renters in cities don't like him. The economically precarious don't like him. Post-industrial homeowners, older, north, socially conservative, don't like him. Don't like the guy. No one likes the guy, okay? He appeals to the die-hard, out-of-touch, middle-class Remain demographic, which 2019 showed us is only about 12% of voters on a solid turnout. So, disaster. Absolutely a disaster. Someone in the chat says he's unrelentable and unauthentic. I think that means unelectable. No one's unelectable, but Keir Starmer would be close to that. The guy is just not right for the country. I could have told you this in March of 2020, okay? I could have told you all back then, right? So many people would. Ian Lavery said so, right? He said, look, I'm from this area, and these sort of SW1 idiots who think that, you know, that tattle and sleaze is all there is to politics. These people, who basically have their heads up their arses at Labour HQ, at Lotto, believe that they're being sensible, being the grown-ups in the room. Absolutely vacuous strategy and nothing to it. Devolved races and the prospects for the union. So looking at Wales, there's a final estimate here from Stats for Lefties for the Welsh Parliament. we can have a look at that, because obviously we've got the Welsh and the Scottish parliaments going up for election. We want to look at both of those. Looking at Wales, an average of the polls, popular vote, constituency-wise, 36% Labour, 28% Tory, 19% Plaid, 31% Labour, 25% Tory, 20% Plaid. On party list vote, majority of 31 is required for 31 seats for a majority. 26 seats will go to Labour, 17 to the Tories, and 14 for Plaid. Plaid are going to be the kingmakers. It looks like we're going to have a minority Labour government, and Plaid are going to be the kingmakers. They may, support a minority government, or maybe, and I think this would be the best thing for Wales, a coalition government of Labour, Plaid. Maybe even get Adam Price in as Deputy First Minister. I think that would be the best thing for Wales. And I think things like Welsh independence, which 40% of people in Wales support, I think it would be good to see these things pushed on to the political agenda. So something to watch over there. Still a big achievement for Labour in Wales, even though the Tories are doing better than they have done for a very long time. Big achievement to still be the largest party after all this time. Pretty impressive stuff. The average here on electionpolling.co.uk shows Labour gaining 1 seat, losing 2, Tories gaining 5, Plaid gaining 3, UKIP losing 7 on the last time. Obviously, they're completely irrelevant. Looking at Scotland, the average from Lefty Stats, the sort of final prediction of all the polls, 49% of the first past the post vote going SNP, 21% Conservative, 21% Labour. PR-wise, 38% SNP, 22% Conservative, 17% Labour, 10% Green. Seat-wise, they need 65 for a majority. They're going to get 66. That's up 3. Conservatives down 3 on 28. Labour down 5 on 19. The Greens up 5 on 11, basically doubling their intake. So the Greens are going to double their intake. The SNP are going to get that symbolic majority. For independence, that's the first thing. That symbolic majority is important, but it means they can't walk over anyone else. It's not just about the SNP. I think if we see this result, this is what I think we'll see, it will be the best of both worlds, because the SNP get the symbolic majority, meaning Westminster saying, oh, if the SNP get a majority, there'll be a referendum. They get egg on their face, but at the same time, I'm sympathetic to both Welsh and Scottish independence, by the way, but at the same time, the Greens double their intake. They hold the real balance of power. They could exact serious concessions or even go into coalition with the SNP. I think keeping a distance would be the best thing for them. Whereas the best thing for Plaid would probably be, at this point, I would say, a coalition. Prove their hand in government. As long as they don't do anything particularly toxic. I don't see Welsh Labour doing anything particularly toxic. Mark Drakeford, pretty benign. But, the Greens will have serious leverage. They're going to have to deliver for their base. But it's good that we're seeing a left-wing alternative, a left-wing pro-independence alternative within touching distance of Labour in terms of seats, and really setting themselves up in many ways as the opposition of the future in Scottish politics. Overall view of these elections, a disaster nationally for Keir Starmer, an absolute disaster. The Tories holding their own in a contest that should really be a wipeout considering everything that's happened with the pandemic. What a good result would look like. This is from, again, Lefty Stats. What would a good result look like for Labour on the night? 1,850 councillors to the Tories' 1,800. 20 out of 35 police and crime commissioners and 7 out of 8 Metro mayors. That's not going to happen. That would be a good result. This would be a disastrous result for Labour. I think it will precipitate a further shift to the right as these people continue to not learn the lessons they should be learning. And I think, Scotland, Wales, independence is on the march. The union is fragmenting. In terms of councils, it may be a pretty boring night. If we see Tory gains, that would be exceptional for just in terms of precedent. By-election, big deal. There's going to be some big symbolic kicks to the balls, basically, for the Labour Party, which no one wants to see, but that's what we're going to see. But alas, we'll wait and see. Of course, nationally, the polls have tightened the wake of the various Tory sleaze scandals. nationally now, Conservatives on 40%, Labour on 38%. Will that translate into a better showing in terms of councillors? Yet to be seen. Most people have already voted by post, right? And turnout on the day will be pretty low because people are depressed with Labour. We'll see. Over to the Cold War talk regarding China. This is from the Financial Times earlier. America's top diplomat, Antony Blinken, has rejected claims the US is entering a Cold War with China during a visit to London to discuss with G7 counterparts how best to respond to the challenges that are posed by Beijing. He said he resisted putting labels on most relationships, including this one, because it's complex, but also said this is not about initiating a Cold War. This is all about doing our part to make sure that democracy is strong, resilient, and meeting the needs of its people. Reiterating the intention from Washington to hold a quote-unquote democracy summit later in the year. Now, good to hear these words. The reality is, rhetorically, Biden is shifting the US closer to a Cold War with China than even Trump did. I think Europe needs to go its own way on this, walk the tightrope. You know, they're huge. They've got the economic and political might. People say this isn't possible. It is if you're Europe. They should be saying, look, we're going to critique US foreign policy here or there. We're not going to cut China out, but we're also not going to be a Chinese proxy. They should have, the guts to do that politically. The Eurozone should have the guts to do that, tread the line. So that it's in everyone's interests for it to refuse any shift from the US towards a Cold War posturing, which I think is where we're heading bit by bit, right? I think it's a slow creep. And I also think that, if I was a country of the global south, I'd actually probably, if I had to take a side, align myself more with China, purely because China isn't going to shaft my economy with sort of commercialization, financialization, privatization, quite in the way America will. Even if any help, any investment in public infrastructure from the Chinese government is, of course, in their own diplomatic interests, they're not going to sort of shaft me to quite the same brutal extent as the US will. So if I was in the global south, I'd be more allied with China. If I was Europe, I'd be trying to walk that tightrope, walk that line, which I think they actually can afford geopolitically to do. A lot of people might disagree with me, but I think that's almost definitely the case. And finally, a vaccine waiver. We've heard breaking news that the US may be willing, this is from the New York Times, the Biden administration may be willing to, the Biden administration will support lifting patent protections for COVID-19 vaccines, a breakthrough for global efforts to produce more doses as the virus rages in India and South America. This is huge, okay? I didn't think the Biden administration had the courage to stand up to Big Pharma on this. I didn't think they'd do it. It looks like they are doing it. It's big. It's a big deal. It's good for the world. It's good for society. It's good for everyone involved. I think we'll have to read the small print. Is the political will there to push this? Is it just an Obama-esque gesture? Let's see. But this is the big coup, and massive props to the Biden administration if they actually push, because America is one of the biggest roadblocks to stuff like this happening. If they move on it, they're taking on vested interests, they're doing the right thing. Forgive me, but right now, I'm extremely sceptical, but I really, really hope that I'm proved wrong and we can do the right thing for our comrades right around the world, particularly in poorer nations, South America, the global south, Africa, help these people and, let them help themselves instead of going drip drop, bit of relief here or there. You're going to have to wait, Bill Gates gets divorced, also has his opaque, heinous nationalism, economic nationalism rejected. So take that, Bill. You love to see it. That is it from me today for MesmePolitics. We'll be back for episode 2 tomorrow on the eve of truly consequential elections. I'll see you then. Speak to you soon. I've been Toby Lepati Mesme, and this has been MesmePolitics for Wednesday the 5th of May 2021. It's 20 minutes past 10. This has been episode 1.